When I was 18, a man smashed a car window in my face and told me that he was going to cut my throat. Tiny particles of glass had cut my face, and some of it had gotten in my eyes. Shutting them tightly, I leaned forward to let the pieces fall out rather than rubbing them out, because that's the best way to do it. It's perhaps my obsessive nature that caused me to remember that little tidbit of useless information. When I felt it was safe, I opened my eyes, and he was staring at me with a psychotic smile that wilted from his face the moment he realized that nearly 20 people had watched the whole event, and they were all staring at him. He had chased me down for giving him the finger. I gave him the finger because he cut me off. He cut me off because I wouldn't let him through. I wouldn't let him through because I was being an asshole. I was being an asshole because I was a lazy high school dropout that had nothing better to do than drive around and piss people off. Wherever the blame game starts, there are times where events come together in that perfect way that remind you with pain that you are human and you can be hurt very badly. I pulled into a parking lot to evade him. He blocked me into the spot with his truck, so I couldn't get out. Then it came, my old friend. He got out of the car with what I thought at first was a shotgun, but turned out to be a maglite, one of those flashlights that's made of steel. I can't remember if it was red or blue. Usually it's a cop holding one of these. This man was no cop. He was rage embodied. I lit a man on fire, and I couldn't appease the flames. He came to my window, and I locked my door, like that would help. Immediately, he started yelling,
"You got a fucking problem, man?"
Through the window, he's muffled. I shook my head and said no.
"You better not have a problem, or I'll fucking kill you, and don't..."
At this point, I remember his arm moving up and then down as if it were not under his control.
"Don't fucking call the police, or I'll slit your fucking throat."
The glass is forever frozen in the air in that memory. In a way, I pitied him in that moment. The tight smile loosening on his face, his eyes widening at his surroundings. A parking lot full of people staring at him. People with shocked faces, mouths agape. Some covering their eyes in horror. Did that really just happen? He walks to his car, gets in, burns up his tires, and then leaves. All this I saw in my rearview mirror. Also, I caught a glimpse of my face. There were 5 or 6 long slashes across like claw marks, each of them weeping blood in vertical lines down. None of them are visible as scars now, with the exception of the one across my chin that serves as a reminder of what? Our first few years together, Dana and I were a regular couple. Dates, movies, sex. I had a plan. Playing the good guy all the while, keeping my Christianity internalized because Dana was not a Christian. But this didn't matter to me, so long as I wasn't gay. Do the right thing, I felt the Spirit say. Do the right thing. Find a girl, get a job, have kids, move at a steady pace, and by the way, don't forget your place. I wish I had known then what I know now. You can't cure gay with pussy. It doesn't work that way. Deep inside, an internal dialogue between the spirit and the beast would ensue, as if a conversation that I was only vaguely aware of were constantly going on. Do the right thing. How long can you keep this up? It's what you're supposed to do. Lie to her? That's what I'm supposed to do? This is going to end badly. I want this. I can tell you that for the first few years I slept very well. It was almost as if my insomnia had been cured. I ate well, and I was never out of work, and my obsessions had died down to a dull ache in my head. All of these things added to the idea that I was going in the right direction, whether I was attending church or not. There was an underlying anger in my heart that I couldn't express in healthy ways. I would find myself annoyed at things most normal people wouldn't bat an eyelash at. Repetitive noises, for instance. Something which no child on earth can avoid making. My son, by then, he was calling me Dad, as he still presently does, was the master of repetitive noise. Sometimes I would shrug and say, he'll be a great drummer one day. But other times I would rage, fucking stop that! Didn't I say stop it? Whatever the cause, My constant waxing and waning between normalcy and anger were only the beginning of an itch that would eventually become an opened wound. Dana and I would fight constantly. Our arguments would take on a life of their own. The kind of screaming and shouting matches that would force the neighbors to call the police, and by the time they would show up, we were usually nestled on the couch watching TV. Yeah, we were those neighbors. I would always remind her of what I had given up in order to be with her, what I had done for her, how I had given up all my friends, I stopped playing the guitar. Whatever it was that I loved, I had given up because I wanted her. So see, there, that's how much I love you. I would say things like, I'm the head of the household, and that's my place. I worked, she stayed at home, that's what she wanted. Here begins the misogyny that I had to undo in the future. With our teeth bared, we would throw at accusations of lying and manipulation and cheating. None of my accusations were ever substantiated. I just figured that's the way it's supposed to be. I was using my parents as my example. Yeah, they were angry shouters and accusers too. But beside all this, Dana and I had a lot in common. We enjoyed spending time together, going to the movies and restaurants, things like that. We enjoyed a lot of the same TV shows. She got me into Lost, and I loved her for that because I was immediately hooked. I was, in a way, madly in love with her. We would kiss, and it meant something. We would make love, and it meant something. I don't know if I'll ever be able to explain how I felt about her, and how I was simultaneously gay at the same time. I suppose you could chalk it up to bisexuality, but the thing is, looking back on it, she's the only woman that I ever fell in love with. And since then, I've recognized that my sexual preference is for males. I never liked another woman. She and I had tried several times to have a child together, but to no avail. It was a constant blight in our relationship that I held against her. I have no idea why now. It's not her fault. We were turbulent in those first few years, trying to make and build a life on a foundational falsehood. But what mattered the most was the idea of having the same things that everyone else had. We loved each other. That much is true. But I was a liar, and a good one too. Even though I would have vehemently denied any attraction to men, internally the beast would awaken when it needed to be fed. Late at night, when she and Kid were asleep, I would scour the internet for gay porn. It's amazing what you can find with just a few clicks of the keyboard. It was perhaps the most dishonest thing I ever did in my life. Once I was satisfied, I would go upstairs and be with her. But eventually, she did get pregnant. And she stayed pregnant. It was around this time that I decided that we should get married. After all, we had lived in sin for quite a long time, and playtime was over. So with her a few months pregnant, and I ready to take a plunge into the abyss, we got married in a small ceremony in the backyard of her aunt's house. It makes me sick just watching it. I can remember my thoughts at the time. This is going to end badly. You're going to hurt her very badly. My little girl was born, and I can remember thinking about how much I loved her. For a while Dana was pregnant, I was kind of a douche about it being a girl. You guys still like me right now? I think most guys have an aversion to having a girl. Then after the baby's born, their worries are assuaged by cuteness. That little girl was a fighter. She was born 1 month early and very light with bright blue eyes, just like mine. I was a daddy, and I loved it. Diapers and binkies, sleepless nights, late night feedings, fevers, and all the worries and joys that come with it. All the things that can make a man rip their hair out of their head. I loved those things. One of my favorite parts of being a dad was being able to shove it in people's faces, especially people who had thought I wouldn't make it anywhere. I can remember odd times where I would be confronted with former friends from high school and acquaintances who would display their misgivings about me with strange bit-lipped looks that said, "You got married?" Or, "That's your baby? Wait, you have a son too?" You? Really? Yeah, I did. Pushing the little monkey around in her carriage, I rubbed their noses in it. That's what you get for calling me a loser. I was satisfied. I was a proud conundrum of self-loathing, an egotism that couldn't be satisfied until they knew, even God, that I was straight as an arrow. Except the one time. I was at Target, getting baby wipes or diapers or something. The little monkey's cooing and cuteness were delightsome. Her sitting there reaching up with her little hands to the sky, asking for everything she saw. I want, I need. While reaching for a chic Quattro, hoping maybe this is the razor that won't cut my sensitive face like all the others, I'm suddenly struck by a beautiful blue-eyed man coming towards me. He has a thin gait and delicate hands, pouty lips that you could only call beautiful, even though they were on a man. I'm in love for a second. I smile to myself until I recognize him. It's Bobby. Bobby, whom I hadn't seen in years, looking at me directly in the eyes. I'm terrified. My hands begin to shake, and I'm weak in the knees. I take that breath, the one that reminds me of who I really am. This glance is less than a few seconds, enough to know he wasn't fooled. And even with my beautiful chubby child with her white blonde curls reaching for what she wants, staring him right in the face, he pities me. Still, I think, as if to shore myself up. See, you were wrong. I'm a dad now. I'm married. And I'm fucking straight, asshole.